Imagine you want to travel from Cologne to Rome today to see the Pope, or to go on vacation. You get on a plane in Cologne and are there in less than 2 hours. Or you get into your air-conditioned car and drive comfortably on the highway and are at your destination in 12 hours. You might complain about a traffic jam at the Brenner Pass or the bad food at the service station, but you have no idea what it really means to cover this distance. We are traveling back to the year 1300 today, and you are a pilgrim or a merchant who has to embark on this monumental journey. Forget your suitcase with wheels and forget your credit card. Ahead of you lie around 1,500 kilometers of pure struggle for survival and a route lined with robber barons and wolves and deadly diseases. The question is not whether you arrive comfortably, but whether you arrive at all. Welcome to the Via Francigena, or as it was called back then, the Road of the Franks. Before you even set one foot outside the city gate of Cologne, you have to do things that sound absurd to us today. You do not go to a travel agency, but you go to a notary and make your last will and testament. This is no joke, because the chance that you will not return is so real that no one leaves without a settled inheritance. You say goodbye to your family as if you were going to war, because in a certain way, you are. You equip yourself with a sturdy walking staff that serves not only for walking, but also to ward off poaching dogs and bandits. You wear a wide hat against the sun and the rain, and a thick leather bag called a pelerine. In this bag is your whole life for the next few months. A bit of dried meat and flint, and perhaps a letter of recommendation from your bishop, so that people on the road do not mistake you for a vagabond and imprison you. You leave Cologne through the mighty Tor, and your heart is heavy. How long will this journey take? If you walk, and most people walked because horses were expensive to maintain, then you might manage 30 kilometers on a good day. If we project that onto the 1,500 kilometers to Rome, then you are on the road for 50 days of pure walking time. But that is the theory without rest days, and without illness, and without bad weather. In reality, you will need 2 to 3 months just for the way there. So you are away from home for half a year, and during this time your wife can die, or your house can burn down and you would not even find out. The first stage leads you up the Rhine. Does that sound romantic and you think of castles and vineyards? The reality is rock hard. The Rhine is the lifeline of the empire, but it is also a trap. Every few kilometers stands a castle, and the lord of this castle has stretched a chain across the river or blocks the path on the bank. He wants a toll, road toll and bridge toll and gate toll. If you travel as a merchant and have goods with you, then you will become poor before you even see the Alps. If you try to bypass the toll, then you are a smuggler, and the penalty for that is death or having your hand chopped off. The streets are not paved roads, but often just trampled paths made of clay. When it rains, and in the Rhineland it rains often, then you sink up to your ankles in mud and barely advance 10 kilometers a day. But the real monster of this journey waits for you in the south, the Alps. Today we drive through the Gotthard tunnel and do not even notice that we are crossing a massive mountain range. But for you in the Middle Ages, the Alps are an almost insurmountable barrier of ice and death. There are no tunnels and no mountain passes with guardrails. You have to climb over the passes. The Great St. Bernard Pass lies at almost 2,500 meters in altitude. Even in summer, it can snow here, and storms can brew within minutes and make you lose your orientation. Many pilgrims freeze to death miserably, only a few days' march away from the sunny valleys of Italy, because they were surprised by the fog. Imagine you are standing at the foot of the mountain and looking up into the clouds. You are afraid. You hire a local guide called a marinier, because without him, you are lost. He knows the way through the snow and he knows where the avalanches threaten. The ascent is torture. The air becomes thin, and your heart pounds and every step with your luggage is a battle against gravity. You see wooden crosses or piles of stones on the roadside that mark where others before you have failed. If you are lucky, you reach the hospice at the pass summit, which is run by monks. There you get a warm soup and a sleeping place in the straw next to 50 other snoring and stinking men. But for you, it feels like paradise because you are still alive. And if you think that it gets easier after the Alps, then you are mistaken massively. Welcome to Italy. The landscape changes and the dangers change. Instead of cold and snow, the heat and malaria threaten you now. The Po Valley is still a swamp area in large parts in the Middle Ages, and the mosquitoes are a plague. Many pilgrims from the north, whose immune system does not know these diseases, die here of swamp fever shortly before the destination. Furthermore, Italy is politically a patchwork of hostile city-states. Milan and Florence and Siena and Bologna are constantly waging war against each other. You can unexpectedly get caught between the front lines and be suspected as a spy just because you speak the wrong dialect. Then there is the problem of accommodation. There are no hotels with stars. You sleep in hostels that are often nothing more than a large room with straw on the floor. You share the bed, if there is one, with total strangers. Imagine you lie head to foot with a merchant from Burgundy and a mercenary from Naples. The hygiene is catastrophic. Fleas and bedbugs are your constant companions, and if your bed neighbor coughs, then you probably have consumption the next morning. And watch your purse. Many innkeepers work together with thieves. They give you sleeping drafts in your wine, and when you wake up the next morning, your money is gone, and the innkeeper just shrugs his shoulders and says, he saw nothing. Speaking of money, that is another huge problem. There is no euro and no uniform currency. Every city and every prince mints their own coins. In Cologne you pay with the penny, but in Milan they laugh at you for it. You constantly have to exchange money, and the money changers are notorious for cheating you. With every exchange, you lose value. A rich man who sets off in Cologne often arrives as a poor man in Rome, simply due to the exchange rates and the fees. Therefore, many pilgrims carry their assets in the form of jewelry or gemstones hidden on their body, because one can trade them everywhere. But woe betide you if a robber finds them. After weeks of deprivation and pain, you finally see it on the horizon. Rome, the eternal city. But do not expect the splendor that you know from history books about antiquity. The Rome of the Middle Ages is a sad city of ruins, where once 1 million people lived. Now perhaps 20,000 or 30,000 still live. The ancient forums are pastures for cows and goats, and the magnificent temples are dilapidated or have been converted into fortresses for noble families. The city stinks and is dirty, and malaria lurks in the swamps around the Tiber. But for you, it is the most beautiful sight in the world. You have made it. You see the old St. Peter's Church, not today's cathedral, but its predecessor, and fall to your knees. You go to the tomb of the Apostle Peter and pray. All hardships and all fears fall away from you. You have done penance for your sins, or you have paid your thanks. The feeling of being at the destination is indescribably spiritual and emotional. You buy yourself a pilgrim badge, mostly made of lead or tin with the image of the keys of Peter, and sew it onto your hat. That is your proof. With that, you can show at home that you were really there. It is the status symbol of the Middle Ages. Whoever was in Rome or Santiago or Jerusalem enjoys a reputation in his hometown like a rock star or an astronaut today. But do not forget, you are only at halftime. As soon as you have spoken your prayers and your feet have healed, you have to walk the whole damn way back again through the heat of Italy, and again over the Alps, and again down the Rhine. Many die on the way back because they are exhausted and have no more money. A journey from Cologne to Rome in the Middle Ages was not relaxation, but a life project. It was an investment of time and money and health that demanded everything. When we complain today that the flight has a 1-hour delay, or that the air conditioning in the train has failed, then we should think of the Pilgrim from the year 1300. He had no functional clothing made of Gore-Tex, but a heavy wool coat that soaked itself full of water. He had no GPS, but had to rely on the sun and on inaccurate descriptions. He had no travel insurance and no police who helped him if he was robbed. He was entirely on his own and at the mercy of God. These people took these hardships upon themselves because their faith was so strong that earthly suffering did not matter to them compared to the eternal salvation of their soul, or because the urge to trade and acquire wealth was stronger than the fear of death. They were adventurers against their will and heroes of everyday life. Via Francigena is a hiking trail today, and if you want, you can walk it. But you will sleep in a soft bed in the evening and have a hot shower. You will never really understand how the loneliness and the cold in the Alps feels when one doesn't know if one will survive the next morning. Travel in the Middle Ages was slow. It was brutally slow. One moved in the rhythm of the human step. One did not see the landscape fly past oneself, but one suffered through it, meter by meter. One felt every stone and every incline. Perhaps we have lost something today through our speed. We get everywhere, but we no longer experience the way. The Pilgrim knew every tree and every brook between Cologne and Rome because he had walked past each one. So the next time you get into your car, appreciate the luxury of starting the engine and simply driving off. Think of the months-long odyssey of your ancestors. And now I would be interested. Would you take this journey upon yourself? Would you walk for 3 months to see Rome if there were no airplane? Or do you prefer to stay at home behind the safe walls of your city? Write it to me in the comments. And if you want to know more about how people used to live and suffer, then subscribe to this channel and leave a like. We will see each other on the next stage of our journey through history. Stay curious and safe travels.